I want to come to the French elections. The Communists, Socialists, and the Greens have formed a coalition called as the New Popular Front. So, do you think they'll be able to stop Marine Le Pen's national rally from gaining power?
The New Popular Front is quite interesting. I'm not an intricate expert of French politics just because, well, we've got so much shit happening else in the UK at the moment. But when we had the general election 2 years ago, the French left was all over the place. Mélenchon, who is the de facto leader of this French coalition, because he's the most popular or associated with it, is absolutely very left, and he advocated at the time of the presidential election that voters go and vote for Macron because he was the lesser of the two evils. But that was for the presidential election, so it was based on him as an individual. And an individual can carry a party very well, even if the party itself is quite crap. So in this regard, though, because these are parliamentary elections, it's difficult to see whether or not the French left is going to be obviously keen to get a good standing in the parliament. But what this means is that could come at the expense of Renaissance and some of the centre-left voters who are fed up with Macron's, policies and considerations. And you could see a pincer movement, essentially a squeeze on the left and the right between the National Rally and the New Popular Front. What is interesting, though, is I mentioned this Zemmour guy and his party. I forget the name of it, but he's really right. And his deputy, if I understand correctly, she was trying to find favor with the National Rally, and some of her sort of colleagues were, and Zemmour basically ousted them. He evicted them from the party. So that internal dispute, if you like, between two of the right factions, parties of the French political spectrum may well be welcomed by Emmanuel Macron and the centre bloc. But what it could also mean is that because there is now a clear distinction that you've got the Republican Party, the traditional party of Nicolas Sarkozy, is essentially being squeezed and could eventually be actually eradicated. And so you've got the National Rally, which is sort of being just the centre, the right party, right? It's just the big right party, and that's where anyone who's got more right-leaning ideologies will go and vote for that. Zemmour's party on the fringe, they're not going to do much. You've got the bloc, and then you've got the New Popular Front. So you could see a potentially very just evenly split across these three sorts of blocks. Obviously, the one that loses out most in its current situation is Renaissance and Emmanuel Macron. And the two most likely scenarios, I personally think it's going to be a hung parliament. So no one party dominates. And I think Macron is going to have to do some business with either National Rally or the New Popular Front. Keep in mind, the New Popular Front does have some centre-left parties that he could potentially seek some engagement with, but the overall dominance of that strong left, traditional left, is I think going to be opposing some of his policies. So I think the French parliamentary political scene is going to be going into a pretty ineffective, dysfunctional period, because not much is going to get done. So we'll have to see.
So, could you see this potential deadlock affecting Emmanuel Macron's legislative process? And do you think he might resign in case the deadlock affects his legislative agenda very badly?
No, Macron's not resigning. He is, I think, the most unpopular leader at the moment, partially because that's just how the French are. They always are incredibly, they're very critical of their leaders constantly, whoever's in power, but he's not going anywhere. And there is one theory, which is that Macron is gambling by allowing or inviting a right-wing bloc. Let's just play one scenario that, National Rally, the Le Pen party performs well and they get into power in the parliament, right? So he now has to work with a prime minister who is, well, very opposed to some of his policies, or that he has been trying to avoid getting into power. The deputy to Le Pen, he is young, he is handsome, he is energized, he's very good with social media. He's doing well. And this is the problem, which is that in French politics, or the semi-presidential system that they have, it's very much the prime minister that does the domestic policymaking. Macron is the head of state and is the front man in the face, but there's very little he can actually do in terms of influencing domestic French politics. So he's going to have to make concessions and he's going to have to compromise. And the theory is that he's gambling if there are enough French people who see the ineptitude and poor policy decisions and just governing that the National Rally have, they will ultimately get rid of them in the next election. So, they will vote in a centrist group because they realize that the right wing, this far right, whatever, this populist right party is not good. So it's a gamble. To be honest with you, I feel that that's such a stretch. And also such a legacy risking decision on Macron's part. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It's really tough to tell, to be honest with you, why he's made this decision. There's a lot of debate about, what is his goal. One of them is this, try to give the French public a sense of why, you might think I'm bad or you're fed up with me. But that's the alternative, just how bad that is. And he's making he's putting it to the French people, like, are you sure you want to go through this sort of thing? And then when the French people wake up and realize, oh crap, we could actually have a government that is made up of these kinds of people, or something like that, that's his framing, then it won't work out like that. But I don't think it's going to. I think you're going to see the Renaissance squeezed and the New Popular Front and the National Rally, perform relatively well.
So I just read an interesting story that day in The Guardian, that a young lady was asked whom you're going to vote for, and she mentioned that she's going to vote for Marine Le Pen's party just because her deputy is very hot.
Yeah, well, there is that as well, the guy, well, I think he's well, it'd be weird for me to say, he's dishy or something, but yeah, there will be some people like that. There's this protege, Gabriel Attal, I think it is, who is seen as, Macron's protege, and he's quite young and good looking as well. So maybe you could have two hot guys vying for the leader. I'm kidding. I don't know, but there's definitely people like that. They want they want young, they want, pin-up boy. Politics is funny like that.